So, hi guys, Tim and Toby back again for another series. This series we're specifically going to look at the sometimes forgotten campaign, and that's the Far East campaign in the Pacific. This is mainly the British and Commonwealth's kind of version of it, the Far East campaign from 1941 to 1945. So, episode 1, we're specifically focusing on the main body of men who were fighting in the Far East, and that was members of the 14th Army. Now, the 14th Army are specifically known or classed as the Forgotten Army because, again, it's a campaign that a lot of people forget really, because the war in France, Europe, and then into Berlin is very famous. But then the other theatre, in Asia, against the Japanese, is always forgotten. So that's why the 14th Army is called the Forgotten Army. The 14th Army was commanded by a Lieutenant General called William Slim. He was also nicknamed by the troops, and just kind of in general nicknamed Bill Slim. So in the 14th Army, you basically, it wasn't just British, you also got colonial troops. So just to reel a few off, you've got New Zealanders, Australians, Southern Rhodesian, or Rhodesian regiments, you've got Gurkhas, Indians, Sikhs, the lot of it, South Africans as well, Indians, British, the lot, and all of them making up 2,500,000 serving members in the 14th Army. And the 14th Army were mainly, they held the brunt of the Japanese in Burma throughout the whole campaign and everything like that. So, Toby, do you want to just continue the story of the 14th Army?
Yes, so we mentioned about the Indians themselves being in there, and that's one thing that sometimes people overlook, is when an army is defending its own territory, they tend to fight with much more desperation than an army on the attack. So we saw this with the Germans and the Russians, blah, 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 blah. So, they were fighting for what they loved, for everything they believed in, and they didn't want it swept away by a tide of Japanese imperialism. So, despite they didn't like the British, they didn't like the Japanese more, so they fought very, very bravely. So in early 1944, we began advancing into Burma very kind of cautiously, and the Japanese, not so cautiously, responded with all-out attacks, and they intended to cut off and destroy the Allied supply bases, which they did do in some occasions. They tried to take an Indian divisional HQ, and surrounded units there formed the Battle of Admin Box, which was kind of precursor to the very famous Kohima, Battle of Kohima. The Japanese attack really was beginning to kind of flounder here. It was beginning to come apart at the seams quite badly. They didn't have enough food or supplies, much like the Germans at this stage of the war, which is odd how these imperialistic dictatorships kind of don't put that much effort into their logistics for some reason. And, Japan is only a small nation, and, they can't take that many casualties before they're bled white. And they suffered in this battle alone, Kohima and Admin Box, 85,000 casualties, mainly from sickness and disease. Part of the reason was, instead of letting the Japanese just take all of their supplies, the Australians would actually stick through them bamboo poles and then smear them in the mud so it would all be contaminated. But the Japanese basically just had nothing, so ate them anyway, and as a result became very, very ill. So, pretty good tactics, pretty brutal tactics, but, they worked, so... Yeah, I'll hand you back to Tim.
Right, yeah, thanks Toby. Now, as Toby as Toby was mentioning about quite a famous regiment, which is the Indian regiment in the 14th Army. Australia was another thing, which we'll talk about in much more detail in a later episode, but basically Japan wanted to invade Australia, so Australia, Australia had been in the war for as long as when this incident was happening in 1942, but this is when Australia really wanted to basically stop Japan at their own game. So the 14th Army, known as the Forgotten Army, commanded by Lieutenant General William Slim, Bill Slim, as he was nicknamed. In the 14th Army, you had South Africans, New Zealand, Australians, British, Gurkhas, Indians, Rhodesian, and a lot more, consisting of 2,500,000 serving members. So is there anything else, Toby, you want to add before we finish the video?
I don't think so. You've summed that up very well, so I'll hand you back to Tim to end the video.
Thanks, Toby. So, thanks for watching. That's this episode done. So next episode, episode 2, we'll be talking about 1941 Burma, kind of the mainstay of how Burma got going with the Far East campaign kicking off. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you in episode 2. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.